The angelic voice of the 90s belonged to none other than Whitney Houston. Her unique voice set her apart from other singers. Yet, behind such perfection lay a life that became a nightmare within a few years, a nightmare she would never wake up from. How did Houston's life take a dark turn that led to her demise? Is there more to her story than meets the eye? Today, we are going to delve into the life of Whitney Houston, her demise, and her abandoned home. Stay tuned. The story of Whitney Houston remains timeless, even though it has been more than a decade since her demise. There was something about her music that made her stand out. She was a star, blessed with a perfect vibrato and a vocal stamina that seemed superhuman, which made her a benchmark for every singer. But no one could have it all, and for Houston, behind the fame and glamour was a nightmare on Elm Street. What battles did the talented singer face? Were they in any way connected to her demise? Let's just say Houston's life wasn't very good behind the spotlight. In fact, she struggled so much with fame and marriage that she turned to substances to cope with her reality. She began abusing substances such as cocaine and other deadly mixtures, eventually developing an addiction to them. Soon, she found herself drifting away from her music as her struggles overshadowed her talent. This was evident in her 2002 studio album, Just Whitney, which received mixed reviews and coincided with the news of her substance abuse and her turbulent marriage to Bobby Brown. Was her marriage the reason for her substance intake? Or was there something else lurking behind her shadows? Here's the thing, Houston's marriage to Brown was a total mess, as she was subjected to domestic and verbal mistreatment, which probably contributed to substance addiction. She even acknowledged that Brown was mistreating her in an interview with Oprah. She also admitted that her addiction made her marriage to Brown even worse, and soon she couldn't take it anymore. Over the next few years, she tried to put an end to her substance problem, but it only got worse, overshadowing all that she had worked for. Things escalated even further in the 2000s. Houston's good girl image from previous decades came under scrutiny. On January 11, 2000, while traveling with Brown, airport security guards discovered half an ounce of marijuana in Houston's handbag at Keauhou Kona International Airport in Hawaii, but she departed before authorities could arrive. This was the moment when she realized she needed to take action and bravely sought help. She checked into different rehabilitation centers, seeking help through 3 separate inpatient visits in 2004, 2005, and 2011, but none of her efforts seemed to do the job. She told Oprah, "Doing substances was an everyday thing. I wasn't happy at that point in time. I was losing myself." All of these boils down to her marriage to Brown. The public perceived Houston's marriage to Brown as a divinely arranged union. It was akin to Princess Pop marrying Prince New Jack Swing. It was truly amazing, wasn't it? Well, not everyone was a fan of their union. To some, it was like beauty getting married to a beast in the literal sense. Imagine a clean-slate American sweetheart marrying the reigning bad boy of music, known for his involvement in various shootings. He was involved with gangs during his adolescence and was already the father of 3 children from 2 women. It didn't make sense to people, but no one had the right to dictate to Houston whom she would share her life with. A lot of fans felt like their relationship was incompatible, yet Houston always found herself drawn to bad boys. Her preference was evident in her previous relationship with Eddie Murphy, who fell in the bad boy category. Just a few years into their marriage, things took a dark turn. Houston later said in her biography, "The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but, that their marriage was doomed from the start." During this time, Brown began to mistreat her in ways she couldn't talk about. Their relationship struggles were so bad that it became one of the most turbulent in Hollywood history due to the severity of Brown's mistreatment. In Brown's own defense, he admitted to having a physical altercation with Houston, claiming he had reasons to, citing infidelity and substance abuse on Houston's part as justifications for his actions. However, any form of violence in a relationship is a serious issue that should never be justified. Despite the challenges in her marriage, Houston yearned to become a mother, which became a reality in 1993 when she welcomed her daughter, Bobby Christina Brown. However, she wanted more children, and that longing was dashed by several devastating miscarriages. These miscarriages were one of the reasons Houston turned to substances, as she needed to distract her mind from her harsh reality. When Houston and Brown first met in 1989, their careers were just beginning to take off. However, in just a few years, Houston's career skyrocketed, driven by the success of her lead role in the film The Bodyguard. Things were good for her, but after they got married, Houston's life suddenly changed, which Brown claimed was a result of her substance addiction. This, we all know, was probably a terrible lie. At one point, Houston's family feared for her life, mostly because no one could account for her whereabouts. Anything could happen at any time. This substance problem quickly gave rise to various rumors. Many speculated that Brown introduced Houston to substances, which he denied. He said, "I smoked weed and drank beer, but no, I wasn't the one that got Whitney on substances." He added, "I think we got married for all the wrong reasons. Now I realize Whitney had a different agenda than I did." Soon, Houston could no longer deal with the constant storm in her marriage as she tried to swim ashore. Eventually, she decided to dissolve their marriage, which became official and public knowledge in 2007. Despite that, her struggles were far from over. Following Houston's divorce, she made a victorious return to the music scene with her final album, I Look to You, in 2009, which topped the charts and inspired many young artists to carve out their own careers in the music industry. Despite her struggles with substance, Houston was one person who could serve as a beacon of hope to the upcoming singers. She was destined to become a singer right from her mother's womb. So, how did she begin? How did the talented Whitney Houston discover her voice could do amazing things? Let's take a step back to when it all began. Like many famous singers, Houston discovered her voice as a young girl. But unlike most singers, she had her mother and cousin to guide her through it all, as they were legendary figures in American gospel, soul, and pop music. Houston was born on August 9, 1963, to John Russell Houston Jr., a former Army serviceman, and Sissy, who was a member of the Drinkard Singers and the founder of the Sweet Inspirations before becoming a solo artist. Her mother was a Grammy-winning gospel and soul singer. No wonder Houston learned how to sing even before she could talk. Besides her professional career as a singer, Houston's mom was a choir minister at New Hope Baptist Church, where Houston was provided with the right foundation to build her own path. Soon, she was effortlessly captivating audiences, and at the tender age of 12, she was prepared to explore new challenges. She made her solo performance debut at their church, singing a hymn. Singing one song in a church choir was a significant milestone for her. But it wasn't enough to make history. She needed to achieve more if she aspired to become a legend like her mother. And so, to fulfill this dream, Houston expressed her desire to become a musician to her mother, and with her support, she attempted to secure a record deal at the age of 15. However, as she focused on breaking records, a profoundly transformative event was simmering beneath the surface. Houston's natural beauty, evident from her birth, paved an unexpected way for a modeling career after a photographer, captivated by her innate beauty, chose to capture her images. Soon, she became a teen model for fashion magazines, and in no time, she was a sought-after model and one of the first African-American women to appear on the cover of 17 magazine. Her modeling career blossomed quickly, but Houston still had her music career in mind, which she officially began shortly after finishing second in a statewide talent showcase in 1977 and joined her mother's band as a backing vocalist. She was just 14 when she made her non-gospel performance debut at Manhattan's Town Hall, singing the Broadway standard Tomorrow from the musical Anne, a performance that earned a standing ovation. While Houston was forging a career path, she did not abandon her education. She attended Franklin Elementary School, which is now known as Houston Academy of Creative and Performing Arts, before transferring to Mount St. Dominic Academy by 6th grade. During high school, she continued to sing and was the backup singer for the prominent singers Chaka Khan and Lou Rawls. At the age of 19, Houston finally secured her first record label. It was an exciting moment for the teenager. She was signed with Arista Records and was groomed by the record's president, Clive Davis, for crossover pop success, which led to the release of her first two albums, Whitney Houston in 1985 and Whitney. These two albums might have been the work of a newbie, but they were a huge success and made it to the top of the Billboard 200 chart. Houston hit a big one in 1991 with her performance at the Super Bowl 25, where her incredible performance of the Star-Spangled Banner left everyone stunned and attracted praise from the media. This was just the beginning of a remarkable musical career, as Houston would soon take the world by storm with her powerful vocals that could move mountains. Where does she set her stage? In no time, Houston became known as the Voice and one of the most awarded entertainers of all time. This chart-topping achievement and popularity, first as a woman and then as a black person in the music industry, helped break down gender and racial barriers in popular culture. Her performance appealed to a larger audience while challenging stereotypes about who should achieve mainstream commercial success in the music industry in that decade. Soon, she was recognized for not just her amazing vocals, which remained matchless, but for popularizing the use of gospel singing techniques in popular music. Houston also became one of the best-selling music artists in history when she sold over 220 million records worldwide. To many people, she was one of the greatest vocalists of all time, and her music remained matchless. She achieved several milestones, including 11 chart-topping singles on the Billboard Hot 100, with 7 of them reaching #1. Her album, Whitney Houston, which was released on Valentine's Day, February 14, 1985, remained on the Billboard 200 chart for more than 3 years, eventually rising to #1 in March 1986, more than a year after its release. It remained at the top for 14 more weeks. Critics praised Houston and the album, with Rolling Stone calling her one of the most exciting new voices in years, while the New York Times called the album an impressive, musically conservative showcase for an exceptional vocal talent. Surprisingly, singing and modeling weren't the only things Houston was good at. Following a successful music career, she explored even more and discovered she loved acting. She swiftly entered the movie industry and secured one of the most prestigious roles ever. She was cast as Rachel Marin in the romantic, thrilling film The Bodyguard. This role gave her instant fame. Upon its release, it grossed more than $121 million in the United States and $410 million worldwide, making it one of the top 100 grossing films in history. Despite receiving mixed reviews, the film emerged as the 10th highest grossing movie of its release year. One of its tracks snatched the Grammy Award for Album of the Year. Until now, it has remained the best-selling album. The film's soundtrack produced many chart-topping singles, including I'll Always Love You, which got the Grammy Award for Record of the Year, and spent a surprising 14 weeks on top of the Billboard Hot 100 chart. In 1993, the song became the first single by a solo artist in United States history to sell 4 million copies. The song was a global success, topping the chart in almost all countries with 24 million copies sold. Houston's concerts, movies, and recording grosses made her the third highest-earning female entertainer, just behind Oprah Winfrey and Barbra Streisand, according to Forbes. She was placed in the top 5 of Entertainment Weekly's annual Entertainer of the Year ranking and was labeled by Premiere Magazine as one of the 100 most powerful people in Hollywood. Her impressive performance in not just The Bodyguard but in other hit films earned her several awards, including 8 Grammy Awards, 22 American Music Awards, and 16 Billboard Music Awards, bringing everything to a total of 415 career awards as of 2010 and 30 Guinness World Records. She's also one of the world's best-selling artists, having sold over 220 million albums and singles worldwide and being the most awarded female artist of all time. Several admirable halls of fame, including the Grammy Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, honored her with multiple inductions. Houston's talent did not stop at singing and acting. She also went into film production, overseeing the success of projects like The Princess Diaries in 2004, which was a box office success, earning over $134 million. And Houston's successful career was skyrocketing fast, even while she was dealing with substance abuse. However, behind the curtain were dark secrets she tried so hard to keep out of the public eye. Did these secrets in any way affect her life and career? Raised in a religious household and greatly influenced by her mother, Sissy, Houston frequently had to conceal some unexpected aspects of her personal life, the most startling being her sexuality. Did you know there were rumors that Houston was bisexual? Several speculations about Houston's intimate relationship with her longtime friend, Robin Crawford, surfaced in the last few decades before her demise. At the time they met, Crawford was a beautiful, slender 19-year-old collegiate basketball player at Monmouth University, where both of them worked as counselors at a youth summer camp in East Orange. After they met, they became close friends, and soon they were inseparable. Houston often described Crawford as the sister she never had, and was glad their paths crossed. While many admired their closeness, others thought their closeness meant one thing: they had begun to develop romantic feelings for each other, which of course was met with religious disapproval, especially because Houston wasn't the only one with a religious background. Crawford was too. However, these two seemed not to care. After they graduated from university, they moved in together. This was shortly after Houston signed with Arista. To show how close those two were, Houston made Crawford her executive assistant. While the rumors about their relationship were all over the place, they made no effort to address it. They just went on with it. Houston, who was constantly under the pressure of her strict religious upbringing and societal norms, chose to keep the details of her sexuality a secret to avoid stigmatization. Crawford, on the other hand, who wasn't a public figure, left hints about their relationship. "We were friends. We were lovers. We were everything to each other. We weren't falling in love, we just were. We were one, that's how it felt," she wrote in her book, A Song for You. Houston and Crawford's affection for each other was deep and glaring. Soon it got to Houston's mom. Imagine how disastrous that was for them. She stepped in immediately and tried everything in her power to end whatever was going on between the duo. At this point, Houston knew it was time to end it, especially after she was signed to Clive Davis's record label. All along, Houston's ex-husband Bobby Brown remained quiet about it until a few years later. He didn't just confirm the rumors to be true, he penned it down in his memoir, Every Little Step, My Story, where he claimed Houston was bisexual. But here's the thing. Many think he only confirmed the rumors to get back at his ex-wife, Houston, who had accused him of domestic mistreatment. Do you think that's the case? In an interview with U.S. Magazine, he admitted that he knew about Houston's relationship with her best friend, Crawford Robin, all along, but chose to remain quiet about it. He said, "We were married for 14 years. There were things we talked about that were personal to us," Brown said. He also said, "I'm a man, and she's attracted to me," which means he knew she liked women too. Houston faced cultural pressure regarding her sexuality, especially within the African American community, where it was not approved. After her demise, Rosie O'Donnell noted that Houston was troubled by her sexuality and the fear of public exposure, which kept her at war with herself. This war was between her personal identity and the expectations placed on her as a public figure. Her mother's disapproval made this fear worse. Her past comments regarding Houston's sexuality showed a lack of acceptance for her daughter's potential queerness. In Crawford's memoir, she mentioned how Houston's mother once slapped Houston during an argument, saying that it was unnatural for two women to be that close. Through it all, Houston showed a desire to keep it a secret. In a 1987 interview, she stated, "I'm not with any woman. I'm not in love. People see Robin with me and they draw their own conclusions. Anyway, whose business is it if you're gay like dogs?" This statement indicates her desire to keep it a secret, but as you know, the media will always put its nose where it doesn't belong to sniff out more details. As the speculations escalated further, Houston probably had to suppress the brewing feelings in her heart and concentrate more on her career. But the battle was far from over. This time, she had to deal with challenges that came with being black. Before her demise, Houston often discussed the struggles she faced due to her skin color in the music industry. Many thought she was not black enough to be called a black woman, which sounds absurd, right? I mean, what does not being black enough even mean? Houston said, sometimes it got down to, you're not black enough for them, or you're not R&B enough, or even pop enough. This constant taunt had a negative impact on not just her life, but her career, as she had to deal with an identity crisis. This struggle with her identity extended to the black community, who thought she wasn't sufficiently black. As a result of this, the black radio stations refused to play her records, and her opponents, including Reverend Al Sharpton, regarded her as whitey. Kevin MacDonald, a Scottish film director, talked about Houston's identity crisis in his new documentary, Whitney. There, he stated that Houston's identity crisis and insufficiency of blackness did not contribute to her tragic passing, but it pointed fingers at the intimate mistreatment she faced from her cousin when she was a child. Contrary to that, another film director, Nick Broomfield, in his earlier documentary, Can I Be Me?, made it clear that Houston's battle with racial and sexual identity contributed to her demise. But how so? Nick believes that the impact on her was more negative than she admitted, and she never fully recovered from the toll it took on her. The notion that Houston wasn't black enough wasn't just about her skin color. It was also about her mannerisms and music style, which seemed less like a black style. This is no fault of hers, as her upbringing has a thing or two to do with her identity crisis of not being black enough. You're probably wondering how. Well, Houston wasn't raised with other black kids and did not really know how to act completely black. To make this worse, the moment she was signed to Arista Records, Clive Davis, the CEO of the record label, molded her into a white-friendly pop star. This completely erased the little blackness clinging to her. Soon, her musical persona was described as colorless. For the black community, her records did not have the natural feel of blackness, which most black singers possessed. Houston didn't feel good about this description, and as a result, she made conscious efforts to address it at the Soul Train Award, where she was booed and called too white and too pop. This was a heartbreaking moment for Houston, but she chose to keep her head high. It was during her time there that she met her ex-husband Bobby Brown, who was a definition of blackness, as everything about him was loudly black. He helped Houston break out of this pending issue, and soon she was recording music that mirrored blackness. Throughout Houston's career, the issue of race remained an important subject in her life, as she had been a victim of it herself. She was firmly anti-apartheid in South Africa, and was the first major artist to perform there after Nelson Mandela's election. But none of her struggles could be compared to the tragedy that later befell her, a tragedy that left an indelible mark on the world. Houston passed away on February 11, 2012, when everyone least expected it, with many questioning the reason for her demise. Was it the pressure of fame, sexual and racial identity crisis, or her substance dependence? Many people have pondered these questions, yet only a handful have provided answers, leaving the truth elusive. Houston was found submerged in a bathtub at a Beverly Hills hotel just a day before the Grammy Award, and there have been some interesting reports about the circumstances surrounding her demise. According to some reports, her demise was attributed to accidental drowning as a result of her heart disease and cocaine use. The toxicology report found several substances apart from cocaine, including marijuana, Xanax, an anti-anxiety pill, and Benadryl, an allergy medication in her body, which were contributing factors to her early passing. However, the autopsy revealed water was found in her lungs, indicating that she was probably still alive when submerged underwater. So that means that she fought to survive until her lungs succumbed to the drowning. Was this a case of heart failure, or is there more than meets the eye? Less than 24 hours after the declaration of Houston's death, an investigation began. Her assistant, Mary Jones, told investigators that she had suggested the singer have her bath while she ran an errand at Neiman Marcus, leaving the room at 3 p.m. She came back around 3:35 p.m. and found the 48-year-old singer face down in the tub, submerged in a foot of water. A few seconds later, Ray Watson, Houston's longtime bodyguard, who was standing watch outside in the hall, also ran in. All attempts to revive her were rendered futile as the singer was long gone before they came in. Beverly Hills police officer Mark Rosen told reporters later that night that there seemed to be no obvious signs of criminal intent at the scene, and so the possibility of it being a homicide was ruled out. Soon, the news of Houston's demise became public news, sending shockwaves to her fans worldwide. Many sympathized with the bereaved family, especially her only child, Bobby Christina Brown, who was thrown into a state of shock by the news. Her situation was so bad that she was hospitalized twice within 24 hours of hearing the news. Sadly, Bobby never really recovered from this tragic loss, and in a shocking twist, she faced a similar situation and was found submerged in a tub at her Atlanta home. Unlike her mother, she was rescued on time, but she spent the next 6 months fighting for her life until she couldn't. And on July 26, 2015, Houston's only daughter, Bobby, passed away at the young age of 22. Houston was mourned by not only fans, but by many other singers who loved her. Her funeral took place on February 18, 2012. A private memorial service was held for her at her childhood church, New Hope Baptist Church in Newmark, before she was finally laid to rest in Westfield Fairview Cemetery, near the grave of her father, John Russell Houston, who passed away in 2003. Heartfelt tributes from her family and friends poured in, including from Whitney's close friend Kevin Costner, who took up extra time. The service, originally scheduled to last 2 hours, ended up lasting 4 hours. With tears and laughter, CeCe Winans shared memories of sitting with Houston in her closet, preparing her for her first tour. Tyler Perry shared glimpses of the Houston he knew. Houston's record producer Clive Davis, her music director Ricky Minor, her cousin Donnie Warwick, and her security guard for over 11 years also made their remarks. Several artists such as Stevie Wonder, CeCe Winans, Alicia Keys, Kim Burrell, and R. Kelly performed, and later on, hymns by the church choir complemented these performances. Houston might be gone, but her legacy still lives on. Her music remains timeless, and she will always be remembered for her impact on the upcoming artist. After Houston's death, her estate naturally passed to her daughter, Bobby Christina Brown. However, what happened to Houston's estate after Bobby also passed away? At the time of Houston's passing, she had a net worth of around $20 million. It's no wonder she was able to afford her luxurious home in Mendham Township back in 1998, which she purchased for approximately $2.5 million. This house is a striking 12,500 square feet on a 5-acre plot. It featured a unique design made of concrete and glass elements, a 4-car garage, and a circular interior space. This home was where Houston spent most of her spare time during her later years, where she went through all of her struggles and triumphs. After she passed away, her home was put on the market at a selling price of $2.5 million. However, after it struggled to attract buyers, it was eventually reduced to $1.75 million. Yet it remained unsold for many years, and recently, the house has fallen into disrepair and is currently falling apart due to lack of maintenance. Real estate pros think the house would be difficult to sell because it is associated with an infamous tragedy. Some reports suggest that it has been vandalized, and the neglect of the property became a point of interest for fans and media as it symbolizes the decline of Houston's once glamorous life. As of today, the property remains unsold, and its future is uncertain. Houston's demise had a profound impact on many, and one thing is certain: there will never be another Whitney Houston. She will forever be missed. What do you think about Houston's struggles and demise? Do you think her abandoned house might be sold in the future? Tell us in the comments below. Don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.